Hello, everyone. All right, today for social studies, we're going to start our new chapter. So what you need to do is take out all your notes from chapter 6. You can just stick them into a pocket of your folder, and then you can put in chapter 7, lesson 1 notes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to go again quick. You can always pause me. Follow along in the book. You will need your book and your folder out. We're going to be on page 302. And again, for notes, you can use pen, pencil, marker, whatever you feel like to make it fun for you. All right, I'm going to read to you again. It is kind of a longer chapter, just warning you all right now. And your notes are front and back, 2 pages worth. All right, again, we're on page 302. I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera so you can see my textbook. All right, here we go. Page 302. After the Constitutional Convention ended, George Washington returned to his home, Mount Vernon, in Virginia. Soon, he would be called upon to serve his country in another role. In 1789, many of his colleagues asked George Washington to become the first president of the United States. He was the only president to ever be unanimously elected to the position. That meant that all the electors voted for him. When U.S. citizens cast a vote for a president, they are actually voting for electors who, in turn, vote for the presidential candidate. This system is called the Electoral College. It is a group of people chosen by each state to choose the president and vice president. The number of electors is based on the number of representatives the state has in Congress. The popular vote is the number of votes a candidate receives based on United States citizens casting their votes. At that time, John Adams was the person with the second most votes, so he became vice president. Today, 2 candidates, one for president and one for vice president, run on the same ticket. Washington was sworn in as President of the United States at his inauguration. An inauguration is an official ceremony to make someone president. Okay, notes. In 1789, George Washington is asked to become the first president. All electors voted for him. Electoral College is a group of people chosen by people in each state to choose the United States and vice president. I did abbreviate vice president as VP. The number of electors is based on the number of representatives the state has in Congress. John Adams was the person with the second most votes, so he became the vice president. Inauguration is an official ceremony to make someone president. Again, you can pause if you need to. Going on to the next page. I'm sorry for the shakiness. My hands are never stable. That's unfortunate. All right. While in office, Washington started the tradition of a presidential cabinet and decided how it would function. The cabinet would be a group of trusted advisors who consult with the president on different issues while offering a wide range of views on those issues. Today, there are 16 cabinet members, the vice president, and 15 heads of the executive departments. The Constitution states that there will be executive departments under the president. Washington set up precedent by choosing 4 members of his cabinet, one to lead 4 executive departments. Thomas Jefferson was the Secretary of State and handled relations with other countries. Alexander Hamilton was the Secretary of the Treasury and dealt with the nation's economy. Henry Knox was the Secretary of War, and Edmund Randolph was the Attorney General and advised Washington on legal issues. Washington signed the Judiciary Act, which created the position of Attorney General as well as 6-member Supreme Court. In 1794, he created the United States Navy, ordering 6 ships to be built, including the USS Constitution. During his time as president, Washington signed the first copyright law. The law was meant to encourage and protect the work of people who created maps and charts and who wrote books. It gave creators and authors the right to publish, print, and reprint their work. The Constitution did not set terms for the presidency. After serving 2 terms forever, Washington retired in Mount Vernon. Okay, back to your notes. Cabinet is a group of advisors that usually advise the president or other leaders. 16 cabinet members, the vice president, and 15 heads of the executive departments. 4 executive departments, which are the Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of War, Attorney General, and our Attorney General, and Washington signed the first copyright law. This does go on the back side of your notes, the last one. All right, going on. Washington did not support political parties or a group of people with the same general opinions about government. He believed that they would divide the country. Still, two parties existed by 1796. They were the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. The election for the second president of the United States would be the first time citizens would choose between two candidates from two distinct political parties. It was also the first time that candidates at the local, state, and federal levels ran for office as members of these two parties. They had previously been appointed. The Federalists, the party led by Hamilton, were strongly in favor of the national bank, a strong federal government, and thriving trade and industry. Merchants were the strongest Federalists because they believed that Federalist policies would help their businesses grow. The Democratic Republicans, led by Jefferson, supported a farming economy. They represented the common man and did not support a strong central government. They supported states' rights and did not want a national bank because they feared it would give the government too much power. Okay, next set of notes. Political parties is a group of people with the same general political opinions. Washington did not believe in political parties. He thought they would divide the country. But two parties did exist by 1796. They were the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Moving on, building a strong economy. People, it is really weird. Look at all these desks, just empty. I miss you all. It's super quiet too. Like, I could probably hear a pin drop because it's so quiet. All right. Building a strong economy. The Constitution states that Congress has the power to do what is necessary and proper for the country. Alexander Hamilton interpreted this to mean that Congress should do anything necessary to carry out its tasks. Hamilton also felt strongly that a national bank and a single national currency were necessary for the health of the new nation's economy. In 1791, he decided to propose this idea in order to deal with debt that had accumulated during the American Revolution. Thomas Jefferson believed the Constitution stated that Congress should only act when absolutely necessary. Jefferson did not agree that creating a national bank was a necessary step. As a Democratic Republican, he feared it would give the government too much power. President Washington agreed with Hamilton. The first Bank of the United States was created in 1791. The United States began to pay its war debt, and using one currency made interstate trade much easier. Hamilton also supported tariffs or taxes on imported goods. He believed that tariffs encouraged people to buy goods made in their own country and would help American businesses. Jefferson opposed tariffs because they raised prices for farmers. In the end, Congress voted against the tariffs. Hamilton thought tariffs would be a good business, but Congress did not agree. Just two vocab ones for these ones. So, propose is to suggest, and accumulated means to gather an increasing amount of something. So, we were accumulating debt. Moving on. The new capital. The Resident Act of 1790 stated that the capital city of the United States would be located on the Appomattox River between Maryland and Virginia, and here it is right here. It would be a city separate from any other existing city and not be part of any of the states. As President George Washington lived in the temporary capital, Philadelphia, yet he chose the people who would design what would become the permanent capital, Washington, D.C. A French engineer by the name of Pierre Charles L'Enfant designed the capital city. Benjamin Banneker, a free African American, was a surveyor for the land. A surveyor measures land before something is built. Dr. William Thornton, a Scottish physician, designed the Capitol building where Congress would meet. The Capitol would be the center of the city, situated on a hill. Construction began on the Capitol building in 1793, and progress was slow. The workers had to leave their homes and live in what was at the time wilderness. The building was not yet finished when Congress began working there in 1780. So that's between 1793 and 1800. That's a pretty big, that's a lot of years, and it hasn't even been finished yet. The new Capitol. President Act of 1790 stated that the capital city of the United States would be located along the Potomac River between Maryland and Virginia, a city separate from any other existing city and not be part of any of the states. And it was built in Washington, D.C. Okay, we're in the second set of notes, or page now of notes. John Adams becomes president. The 1796 presidential election was the first election with competing parties and a contested election. The Federalist Party nominated John Adams and Thomas Pinckney. The Democratic Republican Party nominated Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. Each electoral college member cast 2 votes for president. The person with the most votes became the president, and the one with the next highest number of votes became vice president. On election day, Adams won the presidency by just 3 electoral votes. Jefferson won the vice presidency. The country would have a president from one party and a vice president from another. Look at the map. Most of Adams' votes had come from the northern electors, and most of Jefferson's had come from southern electors. After this election, John Adams and his wife Abigail moved to Washington, D.C. They were the first family to live in the president's house, which was later named the White House. Although the house was unfinished when they moved in, John and Abigail made this new building the official home of the President of the United States. On election day, Adams won the presidency by 3 electoral votes. Jefferson won the vice presidency, and Adams were the first family to live in the president's house, which is called the White House. Soon after John Adams became president, a crisis erupted. French ships began to take over American ships in the West Indies. In response, Adams cut off trade with France. Soon after, Congress passed laws known as the Alien and Sedition Acts in 1798. The word alien was used to refer to foreigners or immigrants. Sedition means stirring up a rebellion against a government. These acts made it harder for immigrants to become citizens and allowed the president to expel any foreigner thought to be dangerous. In addition, U.S. citizens should be fined or jailed if they criticize the government. Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans opposed these acts. They argued the acts were against the First Amendment to the Constitution. This amendment guarantees freedom of speech and of the press. With help from Jefferson and James Madison, the state legislators of Virginia and Kentucky declared the laws would not be followed in their states. This was the first time the states had gone against a decision made by the federal government. These Federalist-backed laws paved the way for a change in power in the presidential election of 1800. Last set of notes. French ships began to take over American ships in the West Indies. Adams cut off trade with France, and Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798 made it harder for immigrants to become citizens and allow the president to expel any foreigner thought to be dangerous. All right, that is it for social studies. Your homework is going to be on a separate document. It is labeled History of the White House. So go ahead and look at that. There is a link, and you're going to fill in the blanks for me. Fill in the blanks on the actual document and then turn it in when you're done. I will see you guys later.